If there's one thing about living in Alaska, it's that you learn pretty quickly not to waste what you've been blessed with. And right now, we have 86 pounds of moose meat sitting in our freezer. Normally, that wouldn't be a problem, but we're headed back to moose season next month. Freezer space is becoming incredibly valuable, and honestly, frozen meat isn't always the most convenient thing when it's 5 o'clock and I forgot to thaw out dinner. So today, we're doing something that might sound a little bit crazy. We're pulling out all 86 pounds out of the freezer and turning it into shelf-stable, ready-to-use food for our pantry. But around here, there's never just one thing happening. While those canners are running, we've still got the Alaska Homestead in the middle of summer to take care of. There are a few more things I want to get planted, chores that aren't going to wait, and a garden that finally is giving us armloads of flowers. And before the day is over, we're going to put some of that moose right back to work and make dinner with it. So, this isn't really a day about canning 86 pounds of meat. It's about taking what we already have, making it work for the season that's coming next, while keeping up with everything this season is giving us right now. So welcome back to Modern Homestead Alaska. I'm Jessica. We've got a lot to get done around here, so let's get into it. So in the first pan, there is 20 pounds. I may add a few more. I'll break it down. And I put a little water in the bottom, so it gives me a little bit of time to break it up and then to brown and cook the meat all the way through. We're not worried about the look of it going in as much as we're worried about cooking out the fat if we can and getting that separated out, because we want as little fat cooked as possible. So we are at 20 pounds so far. We'll see where we keep going. I do honestly need it to be at a size where I can stir it and deal with it. So I have 7 pounds here, and I have a total of 40 pounds that we're going to can. This 7 pounds I'm gonna meal prep with for Aaron. It's gonna be totally worth it. So we're gonna do some tacos as well as some stroganoff type of meals for him. So I'm going to do this really quick so that he can have dinner tonight, and I'll put the rest into a freezer meal. And then I have another 20 pounds going here, and I've weighed out the last 20 pounds, and then that is all of the meat. So it's a total of 20, 40, 60, 87 pounds of meat. Okay, for the stroganoff, Aaron and I decided I'll just do all stroganoff tonight, and then in the next round of things we do, I'll stack up some taco meat. I don't actually have to have everything done right away. It's a process, getting everything done this month, building some freezer meals, getting things shelf stable, canned, and put on the shelves. And with that, I can just make a single extra meal with these 7 pounds. And mostly the reason is I have a 3-pound block of cream cheese, which is exactly enough for, technically, I would normally use it in 6 pounds of meat. That's fine. We're gonna stretch it through this 7 pounds, and we'll just eat this for dinner tonight. To this, I just have a couple of medium onions that I'm going to go in with that I've diced, and some cloves of garlic. And this is totally a made-up recipe. I've never followed any recipe on this, and because I'm not sure what I'm doing with this different meat over here, I didn't season it. No salt, no pepper, nothing, because I want to be able to turn all of that into chili or taco meat or spaghetti or whatever the case is. But normally for stroganoff, I would use like a rancher steak rub or something like that. And so we're just going to go ahead and season up this meat. with, it's 7 pounds, so a good palm of rancher steak rub or 2. That works for me. And then I just use brown gravy. I tried to get mushroom gravy, they didn't have it, but they had a French onion dip that sounded good. So 2 tablespoons of this is 1 to 1 cup of water makes a packet of gravy. So I would use 1 packet per pound. So I need 2 tablespoons, so I need 14 tablespoons. So 1, 2, 13, 14. Okay, I was trying to read it. So I have a little bit left. And so this is 3 tablespoons for 16 ounces of sour cream of this French onion. This is a local store here. And so I'll do 7, just giving it a little extra. 3, 4, 5, 6. And then some water. And I'm just gonna do enough water to be able to move all of it around and let it kind of absorb, cook down the onions and garlic a little bit. Probably gonna need 2 of those, obviously, because the gravy wants to thicken it up, and then we'll go in with the cream cheese in just a minute. So Erin put one of these in the fridge for this week, and then the rest are going to go in the freezer when they cool down. They're pretty cool. I could probably put them in the freezer in just a minute, but I just want to make sure that I'm not breaking the glass. And then the way that he's going to do this is he's just going to grab one out of the freezer and either defrost it in the fridge overnight, or he will just take it in his lunch pail, and by lunchtime it'll be defrosted enough that he can just heat it up and have a hot lunch. So yesterday I got all but 1 batch canned up, and I've started it, and I'm going to show you exactly how I put it all in the pots if I can get this undone. But I'm going to kind of start backwards and show you as I pull out this load of jars, and hopefully none of them are broken. I broke 1 jar. I think this is the 2nd or 3rd jar I've had actually like break in a canner before. So last night I finished this one and just shut it off And here's kind of the rule that I keep it, because these can for 90 minutes. I let it cool for at least 90 minutes before I take the weighted gauge off and before I try opening the canner. Well, with all of that, I shut this off at 1:30 this morning. So I woke up to it still cold, still warm to the touch, and there we go. There we go. So this is completely cooled, which is fine. It all came down to temperature, and there we have it. Our beautiful ground moose meat. It's not even hot now, so you can reach in there. It's still warm, but it's not hot, and you can literally tell that that is ground meat, and it has set up fantastically. So I'm just showing you this. We're gonna set these down. They need to go with the rest of them. Look at how much, all right, look at how much I've already gotten done. So I've done 2, this is the 3rd batch of each. This is the one that had 1 break on the top. It needed to cool completely. And now we're gonna clean all these up while the other canner is going. So we'll just move these out of the way. But you can easily wash the jars once they're all sealed. That's our warm one. Let me see. So look, there's barely any fat at the top. So when they cool down, it's just ground burger meat, which is perfect. And our son Caleb was here just a little bit ago, and even he was like, actually, that doesn't look bad at all. It looks just like ground hamburger. And so far we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 15, 16, 21 quarts. Oh, so look, that one didn't seal, so that needs to go in the fridge. I don't have any other seal problems. So when it doesn't seal like this, you just need to pop that into the fridge and use it right away. We're only working a little bit backwards, and then we're gonna can everything up. There was no sense in taking you along. I wear pajamas most of the day, and each canning deal takes about, let's see, 90 minutes to process. It takes me, about 30 minutes to fill the jars and so on. Get it all up to temp, do the 10 minutes, all of that, and then I let it cool for 90 minutes. We're talking at least 3-4 hours, and I did 3 batches. Just in case things have siphoned a little, the water is just a little icky, I'm gonna start the canner over. My canner is so big and I can double layer jars in here, but I can't layer 2 pints or 2 quarts. I can layer 2 pints. So I do a quart and a pint, and then I can it at the time for a quart, which is 90 minutes, 75 minutes for a pint, but it doesn't hurt anything. And now I need to put about a gallon of water for this size. So over here, I let cool down, and I'm gonna turn it back on. We have the beef broth. So instead of water, I'm using broth. I just use some Better Than bouillon, and I measure it out to equal. It's about, I did about 24 cups, which is a half a cup of the Better Than bouillon. And and then it makes 2 batches. So I figured that out at least. All right, so that's ready. And in the bottom of the canner, you have to have something that keeps the jar from rattling against the pan, against the bottom of the pan. And it comes with 2. So one we're gonna layer in the middle, the other one goes in the bottom. And this is preheating and the meat. So I went ahead to preheat. So this is something like, I didn't know this when I first started canning, so I wanted to share it with you. You don't actually have to manage to do all of it in one day. But if you do hot pack something, so we cooked all of the ground meat up, which this is moose technically. So you could do hamburger or beef or venison or elk or whatever it is. You have to then reheat it. So it has to be at least over 200 degrees, there's an exact thing, in order to hot pack can it. So we simply need to heat it back up. But it's just stayed ground meat the first night. We drained it, we rinsed it, we made sure there was no fat. There's very little left in the jars. And so I started using the roaster pan, and this holds one 20-pound batch. Now that doesn't equal 20 pounds anymore because all of the liquid and the fat has been cooked out of the meat. I did take the time, and we'll do it again today, to measure out exactly what I put into each jar, kind of like they do at the store, which I don't normally do that, but I wanted to know exactly how much meat was in them because Aaron does carnivore, and it's important for him to know exactly what he's getting in his diet. He's not on carnivore currently, he needs to be back on it. It's time for us to get our life back in order. The wedding's over, the guests are done visiting, and we just need to get back into the swing of things and worry about our health and our weight and all of that different stuff. So I'm just stirring it up. I did throw a little water in here. It makes it easier for me to move it around, and the water helps reheat the meat more evenly. So as soon as this is heated and the broth is heated, we'll get to jarring. If you're wondering, I found that one thing of chicken breast in the freezer that you might have seen, like, what is that amongst all of that meat? And I boiled it off this morning, and I'm gonna make two things. I'm gonna make some soup, like just a nice garden soup for myself this week. And then the other one I'm gonna turn into a chicken salad for myself as well. I just threw some aromatics, so some peppercorns and celery and carrots and stuff out of the fridge in to boil it, and now I'm letting it cool so that I can pick it off of the bone. And then I have the broth that it cooked in left over for me to do a little bit of soup. So this is actually gonna be delicious. It just looks kind of gross hanging out there on my cabinet. All right, we're ready to jar. So the first thing we're gonna do is just turn this on low. I put sink water in here. I can feel it, it's a little warm on the outside, but I don't want it to overheat the jars immediately. I want everything to come up to temperature together at the same time. Here, a little bit at a funky angle so that you can see exactly what I'm doing and how I did this. But I just have some apple cider vinegar upstairs. Normally I prefer white vinegar, but I didn't feel like going to the basement. But I'm gonna wash that jar. I have a clean rag, even if it's stained. And we're going to wipe the rims and the lids with vinegar because anything with fat, this is really hot now. Okay. And then I have that. I have salt, so I have kosher salt here. We're doing 1 teaspoon per quart. And I'm gonna measure it out. So I'm going to get it to pounds because that is what I am familiar with. Tar that out. Use the funnel. I have a ladle for the broth, which is really low. So we'll turn that to low. All right. And I'm gonna use this to poke everything down. So we can turn it to low now. All right. So 1.5 pounds per quart is what I did. And it looks like a lot when it first goes in. 0.6. 1 pound. 0.2. 0.3. 0.495. As close as you can. Then 1 teaspoon of salt, because when we cooked this up, when we fried this up or boiled it up, we didn't use anything. There is a little bit of salt, which we could do up to 2 teaspoons, but because we're using broth instead of hot boiling water, which you could use anything, hot boiling water, other types of juices, different things like that. I just thought the broth would be the best choice. So I'm gonna poke it down into the jar. Okay. Perfect. And we're gonna push it down and get the bubbles out. And then get that next one ready. So we want it packed in here, but we don't want any air. So that's why I went ahead and put a little bit of liquid. Let me make sure of what you're looking at. Okay, you can see me. So we did put a little liquid so that we're getting the air out, but I'm not trying to pack the meat with no liquid in between and getting air pockets. That's when you get the seals to not work properly and a lot of things can go wrong. Now I need it at the 1 inch, so I need just a little more broth for this one. And right up there, that's that bottom ring on our jars. Now, trying to keep it where you can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to get some vinegar and I am going to just clean really well. Check my jar. I have them in water because I washed them. I always use brand new lids, but I wash them because they come out of a factory and I think that's gross. And I reuse rings. So there we have it. First jar ready to go. We're preheating over here, so everything's coming up to temp at the same time. So that just goes straight in. And then I'm gonna repeat the process. Mine holds 7 quarts in the bottom. So we wanna tar this out. Do one more for you guys so you see exactly what I'm doing. Starting over. Now, when I'm not on camera, I'm gonna get right in the middle of all of this, right? Get my body squared up so that I can do it properly. Just pushing that down. There we go. A little more. Because I'm not trying to can broth, like I'm not turning this into a soup or a stew. That's why I'm getting as much meat in the jar as I can and not as much broth as I can, but I do need to make sure there's enough broth, water, juice, something of the sort, that it's without air and it cans properly, but not so much of it that I feel like that I'm eating a hamburger soup, if you will, which just made me think this would make great hamburger soup. Yeah. Uh-oh, there we go. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the top, 7 on the bottom. Now we're gonna get our lid on. I have an all-American canner. Your canner, you'll just have to read your instructions of exactly how to do it. I'm not necessarily teaching you exactly all of the right things. I'm just trying to inspire you to try and figure it out. So your canner, it might be different, but with the All-American canner, I loved it because not only did it have this gauge, which you can have tested and make sure it works, there's also this. And you can tell whether it's canning properly by how many times it jiggles every minute, whether you've hit the 10 pounds of pressure and all of the different things. It doesn't have any gaskets on it. It just has these knobs that screw down. So you pull them up, you do them opposites of each other so that we can get it all tightened down at the same. And then I like to go through, because this is gonna be under pressure. Tighten it as tight as I can. There we go. There we go. Now we've had it on fairly low, so I'm just gonna turn up the heat just a little bit. And now what I'm gonna look for is steam to start coming out of here. It's gonna be several minutes before that happens. And when I get a steady stream of steam coming, I'm gonna set a 10-minute timer. That is called venting. After it vents for 10 minutes, I'm gonna put my weighted gauge right here, my weight on. And then when it starts to rattle like that, I'll show you in just a minute, I am going to adjust the temperature accordingly. It might need to go up, it might need to go down. It just all depends. I've figured out my stove. I'm not gonna tell you exactly where my stove sits because my elevation, my outside temperatures, everything from the way we have our propane hooked up and so on may adjust at your house. So you have to actually play with these things and figure them out for yourself. However, the meat needs to go for 90 minutes after it comes up to temp. And other than my giant mess, I wanted to show you this, almost nothing here, just a little bit of liquid is left over. That is all that is left, and it fit 20 pounds from the raw meat that's had all of the liquids and fluids and fat and those sort of things in it into my one canner. And so that's a good measurement for me moving forward into the future. So I got everything cleaned up. I'm waiting for it to vent. I have one chicken breast in here, one in here. They were homegrown chickens, so they're obviously different sizes. I'll try and balance that a little bit, but I'm gonna try and see, oops, how much broth I can get. Look at the color of that. And that is not even bone broth. That is just the straight chicken. So one will turn into soup, like I said, one into chicken salad for me, and then 2 broths. Just a little bit.
You said you got 90 minutes of candy left?
Yep, I have exactly 90 minutes. After I put this on, it's been a couple of minutes and I'm watching the temperature start to come up and it's gonna rattle here in just a minute, but I didn't crank up the heat. So in fact, if you can see this, my heat for me is actually pretty, almost teetering on the section of low. So it's medium low, closer to low than medium for sure. However, you don't want to like put that on and then crank up the heat because it would just pressurize way too quickly. And there she goes. Now, we don't want constant rattling like that. So we've hit the 10 pounds. I know this is our 4th batch in 2 days, about where it needs to go, but you don't just turn it all the way down. I barely moved that to get it to rattle, then stop. Rattle, then stop. And I want it to rattle about 4 times every 60 seconds or so. So see how it is stopped? And if it just stays stopped, I need to turn the gas up a little. And if it just stays rattling, I need to turn it down. So now I gotta just play with it a little bit. I won't step away until it's doing exactly what I want it to do. And at that point, I'm gonna mop my floor. All right, friends, house is clean. Floors are mopped. It's been 90 minutes. I'm shutting it off. And like I said, if I've ran it for 90 minutes, I like to give it at least 90 minutes to completely cool down before I try and open this. Don't move. Don't move it. Don't shake it. Don't jostle it around. Don't touch that. Don't pull anything off. Don't. Just walk away. Shut it off completely. Don't scoot it to a different burner. Leave it exactly where it's at and walk away. honestly hesitated in showing this area because unless you understand what I'm doing with the soil, it kind of just looks like I made a chaotic mess, and we had done all of this beautiful landscaping and clearing of trees and bringing in all of this garden soil, and now it looks like this. It looks like this because I planted everything that you see here. But I thought I would take a chance on you, take a chance on me, follow me along for just a second. We have a plant out project, but I want to explain exactly what's happening here. All right, when I spent the money and brought in all of this beautiful garden soil and everything to build up the land in order to grow these 3 pillar trees here, the 2 larch, or Siberian larch, the 2 Siberian larch, and the 1 blue spruce over there. We still are looking for a giant statement tree right here that will really take up the eye visual kind of determining between our place and the neighbor's place, and then from the landscape area it becomes this wild forest you see behind us. Well, soil washes away. It is going to get covered with weeds, or I could plant something in it, or I could do the cardboard method where I then put the wood chips and I landscaped it out. And I just really wanted for next year to bring in more of a soil topper and finish the landscape, because every single tree is upwards of a few $100, up here to a couple hundred. For the pillar trees are all over $200, and then the rest of them were hundreds of dollars. Well, we can only do so much at a time. I have 2 shrubs here. One you can't tell because it's been overtaken, and then the other one is over there. And I had planted out some flowers, like all of those beautiful pansies that you see. I grew all of those from seeds. I grew all the nasturtium from seed, and then I put a bunch of super petunias in here in order to just kind of take up some space. And right there is what's called a rose tree of China, or a double flowering plum. And then I have these 2 lilacs that need to get planted. They're really struggling. And I wasn't quite sure of how to go about doing it. And so my solution was I threw out a bag of wildflower seeds, and they have really bloomed their heads off. They look incredibly beautiful. And walking through here, the whole thing is full of bees, honeybees, bumbles, the Alaska bees, and you can kind of see a difference. I don't know that this camera would pick it up, but they're chasing butterflies. So they're chasing butterflies because there's so many pollinators that are just truly enjoying this space here. Well, the other thing that I threw out was a bag of barley, and barley will not overwinter here, but it uses the nutrients from the soil, and then it's going to die back, and it's going to feed the soil moving into the future. Now, with all that said, we have all this beautiful soil under all of these wildflowers and this barley, and I am going to plant out a few additional shrubs that I got for half price, so they clearanced them down. And I'm going to show you those shrubs, but we have to realize is in the future when we have the shrubs and the different things, and then I do the wood chips, because everything is planted in good garden soil, the roots are getting what they need, and then the wood chips are nothing but like a landscape to make it look clean and tidy and beautiful. All of this will be gone. However, this is the very best option that we could have gone with for this first summer. Although it just looks like I covered my beautiful my beautiful dirt with weeds and such. I did not. It all makes sense in my head. But let me show you the shrubs that we got. All right, so these are all dwarfs. So this is a dwarf Alberta spruce. It is going to get between 6 and 8 foot tall, and it gets about 36 inches wide, and it's hardy down to a -30. We can get as low as -40, but I only paid about $10 for it, so it's worth trying to see. If we can get them established, they would be fine. If we can't get them established and we hit -40, there's not much we could do. Right here we have 3 of these. We're not even gonna try and say what that is, but they get only 18 to 24 inches tall, and they get 18 to 24 inches wide, but these are hardy down to -40 degrees. And we got one, because the price of this juniper was half price, so $22. This juniper gets 24 to 36 inches tall, 36 to 48 inches wide, and it's hardy down to -30, but I'm going to put this right along the rocks at the front of this garden bed. These, I think we might put in a different bed, or I might use them here, and then these I thought would be cute, kind of speckled throughout, because they do get 6 to 8 foot tall. They don't compare at all in height to all 3 of these trees get about 40 foot, which is about what the rest of the forest gets up to. So these would kind of hit the height that is like blocking your visual, kind of your eye view, but they would make a good fence, a good windbreak, a good whatever. But I thought I would kind of tuck them around as or I could put them towards entrances to the... So this rock is put in its permanent place, and then there's this walkway that goes around the woodshed, and I wanted to do the juniper right at the corner of that, 36 to 48 inches wide. I thought planting it right along the rocks, it would kind of soften the border eventually. And then right back here is a lilac. When the lilac is huge, the juniper is kind of here, and it can just spread out and make kind of an entrance. So I've super cleaned it up, knocked anything dead off, and then really opened up the root system. Because we're getting close enough to fall, I want it to just root in. I'm not worried about it growing at all, but anything that kind of looks like it's struggling, I wanted to pull that off. And for fertilizer, I'm just using a little bit of evergreen tone down at the bottom. Hopefully it'll get a little bit of what it needs before it has to head into winter. So this fence was just to protect these trees from the moose, and Layla is doing a good job of keeping the moose out of the yard. And then this one is going to get wide enough, but it'll kind of tear up over it. And so right here, when I bank, if you can see, I come around the woodshed, and then I have kind of a gravel walkway that goes along the back of the woodshed. I thought right there would work really, really nice between the two, and it won't spill too much, but it just kind of gives you a reason to bank that corner. I thought that would be cute right there. And these three are the first 3 trees that we ever planted. This one is a birch. It's gone back and forth. Sometimes it's struggled, sometimes it's not struggling. So it must be doing pretty good on the root system. This is a crabapple, right? Yep. Purple, spiry crabapple. And it has struggled the most. And I don't know if it has something going on, like by the look of some of those leaves. But giving it fertilizer and regular water, it has really kind of bounced back, had some new growth, and then struggled, had some new growth, and then struggled. So I think it's gonna be all right. It's gonna make it. It hasn't just thrived the whole time, but it hasn't struggled the whole time either. And this last one is an aspen, and it's done nothing but thrive the entire time. So I have pretty high hopes for this pillar aspen. So give it a little bit of food. The aspen doesn't like as much water, or no, it's the birch doesn't really care for very much water. The aspen, I have never really had to water it, but this crabapple, I've had to water a lot. And for some reason, the water around the crabapple will just be standing while all the other water kind of soaks in like it should. So that may be part of the issue, is as it's getting kind of its root system established. It's just not perfect soil. All right, 2 down, 5 more to go. So these 2 trees, the blue spruce and this larch, they'll almost touch, but not quite. And therefore they won't come out quite this far. And so I think to kind of fill in like about 6 to 8 feet between the 2 when they reach their final potential, I might put one here, and then I've tucked one right back there. And what that will do is about 6 to 8 feet leading into the forest there where we have these black spruce. So that kind of will give it a different little look, a different evergreen texture than what is around here. I think I want to talk to Aaron when he gets home about these 3 little short fat ones, because I think I want to put them on the front of the rock. So we'll skip that for this video. I really wanted to get them planted out, but I need to make sure that he's not going to be hitting them with a snowplow. And when he is finished with all of the landscape and the rocks and everything else, I just don't want to have something that I need to transplant, especially this late in the season. But I do think really quick, I'm going to fertilize the flowers over here on the woodshed. It's probably going to be one of the last fertilizing that we do before fall, especially over in this area, because I have several plants that are kind of struggling and starting to die back. Some have gotten a couple of bugs on them, different things, but I'm going to do that really quick and then head on with my day. I'm actually incredibly happy with how this area has come together this year. And I thank you, those of you that have followed along the whole time. All of this was forest. There was a little raspberry patch right here. which you can't see the wellhead, which was part of the goal. And this rock wall protects our wellhead in the wintertime, which gets buried with snow. And it helps dictate if someone were to clear the driveway that isn't Aaron or I. And we just don't want to lose our water and all of that fun stuff. But I think moving the woodshed, it literally looks like it belonged in the forest the whole time. And that is so exciting to me. I love the way that the nasturtiums just kind of take over. But my favorite nasturtium of the season was by far what these two here have done. And I've tried not to disturb them because I love the way that they are crawling up around the flag pillows. And I just think that is one of the cutest things. It needed some food. Obviously, it's kind of yellowing. And then the flowers die as the vines have grown along, but the orange and the deep red and all of the colors with the dahlias and the supertunias and then all of the pansies. It amazes me how well pansies grow for the entire season. And then this nasturtium found its way to the fence over here and is just kind of walking its way along. I really think things like that are so sweet to look at. This was the tree that fell out of its root ball and we have struggled with it, and you can see it grew about this much, but I didn't care if it grew at all, if it just put on root growth and anchored itself down. I was okay with it not growing at all. These are meant to shed their needles, so if it can survive the winter, it will come back and do fantastic. That blue spruce has grown several feet. So first it shoots up this great big leader, and then next year off of the leader it'll put off branches, but it grew feet, and I love how quickly that is growing. That larch over there grew exponentially again with probably a foot or more of growth this year. And then we've had kind of some struggles and stuff with these shrubs. That shrub's doing great. This one's not so much. I don't know. I think lilacs are one of my favorite things ever, and so I'm hoping that I can really get some lilacs to grow. But right now the best growing lilac is one that my friend gave me from Remote Life Alaska. She gave me a cutting off of a lilac. I just stuck it in the soil and it is the only one that's truly blooming. So anywho, I do love how this area has kind of come together, is looking, and I'm so excited for whatever fall decor we need to fill this woodshed. We let it get completely empty in order to move it because of the extra weight plus load and unload and all of that fun jazz. And so this month we are going to fill this up because we heat with wood. So if you're new around here, we heat 4,300 square foot with wood all winter long in this Alaska area, and that means this woodshed has to get completely filled up. I really thought those tiny little vases would be so cute to do like little bud vases and be able to tuck flowers around the house, and they do not disappoint. I just think that's so cute to come in the door, see something from the garden that is beyond vegetables and fruits and the different things, but to see just the beauty brought into the house, that makes me so, so happy. With that, I hope that you guys had a fantastic visit on the homestead, maybe learned something or got inspired. If you did, would you do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button? If you ring the bell, you'll get notification. Thumbs up, comments, all those different things really do help our channel to grow. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for being you. And above all, I hope that you are blessed. I hope you feel inspired to go out and do something, clean out a little freezer, pull a flower out of the garden, whatever the case is. I hope you felt something to move forward. So be blessed, and I hope I see you in the next video. Bye for now, guys.